Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Linda. Good to see you here. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. Give the rest of our community members a chance to log in. If you're joining us now, first of all, thank you. We're going to get started in just about 2 minutes, giving our community members some time to look at their text and join us. But then also, just as a reminder, we do have interpretation available. We have interpretation through Miss Patty. Thank you, Miss Patty, for being here in Spanish, and through Miss Naima in Arabic. Unfortunately, Zoom doesn't know or doesn't have the option for Arabic. So if you go into the interpretation function, if you need this information in Arabic, just click on Russian. It's not a good solution, but it is the one that we have with Zoom. All right, this is already live on our YouTube, so let's go ahead and begin our presentation today. I'm very excited to join in conversation today with our program specialists from our special education department for the presentation that you're seeing on the screen. It's Transitions from Birth to Adulthood, Supporting Your Child's Development and Educational Journey. Before we begin, I want to give some quick reminders and a quick thank you on behalf of Albert Unified School District's Board of Education and all of us here staff. We just want to say thank you to our parents for joining us, for spending time with us. We know it doesn't seem like a lot, but the 30 minutes here, 40 minutes there, an hour for this presentation really adds up. And there's so much research that states and proves that the more involved that a parent is in their child's education, the better that child is likely to do, both in school and in life. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We can't do this without you. Remember that we do have a couple of tools for you through Zoom. You have the chat option if you'd like to send us a question. You have the Q&A function as well if you'd like to type out a question. If you would like to unmute your device and ask the question without having to type it in, that's fine. There's a raise hand option to indicate that you would like to verbalize a question. And then if you need this information in Spanish or in Arabic, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see an option that should say interpretation. It should be a globe. It should say interpretation or sphere. And what you can do is you can click on that and change the language from English to Spanish if you need the information in Spanish. If you need this information in Arabic, click on the Russian option, and then that will take you to Miss Naima, who is here with us doing the interpretation. And with that, I'd like to introduce our Director of Special Education for the Auburn Unified School District to begin the presentation, Miss Michelle Sebastian. Michelle.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. We're so excited to be here with you guys this evening to really talk about just all of the transitions that our kiddos have to experience really from birth to adulthood. And our special education department has put together a really good presentation on how you as parents can really, and caregivers and guardians can really help ease the transition for our kiddos. So Kathleen Lopez, she's a program specialist for Albert Unified. She'll be presenting. And we also have Rhonda Jones, who's also a program specialist. So I'll go ahead and kick it off to you guys. And if it looks like Rhonda will be starting.
Thank you. So yes, thank you so much everyone for coming. This presentation today is going to be for transitions from birth to adulthood, and it's really about supporting your child's development and educational journey. Okay, Kathleen, if you want to go ahead and
Yeah.
try to.
Yes. So we're going to go through all the ages and all the transitions, but as far as starting from birth, starting from birth to age 3, just some ways that you can support your child and their development during those ages is big key things at this time are really encouraging communication. As much as you can, you want to try to talk to your child, sing to your child, read to your child to help them to build those early language skills. Some ways of doing that might be singing songs to your child. You might want to also like just model language by talking through what you're doing with your child. We're going to put on your jacket, we're going to put on your shoes, so things like that to just help increase all the opportunities to talk and promote language with your child. Also promoting independence with your child. You want to help them to practice to feed themselves as much as they can, holding a cup, for example, or grasping objects. You might want to offer them choices of things, or have them help you with simple daily tasks like putting away their toys or helping to wipe the table or washing their hands, things like that. At this time, you also want to help them to develop their motor skills. So, things like crawling, standing, walking. And if they're at the pre-walking stage, you might want to have them do tummy time as much as you can, have them play on the floor. Or walking on different surfaces is another good way. Walking on grass, walking on gravel, walking on different surfaces to really help them to have increase that balance and the coordination during that age. For supporting social interactions, this is another thing that we really want to help to encourage our children at this age. Things like learning to turn take, engaging in different games that can help them to learn to turn take with other kids or even other just adults. Encouraging eye contact when you're talking to your child. You really want to make sure, like, if they're not looking at you, just have them turn to look at you so you can try to help encourage that eye contact. Model social behavior, like things like saying hi, saying bye, say thank you. Remind them to also try to encourage them to do those things themselves. Scheduling play dates. And this is going to be something we're going to talk about again later too, but scheduling play dates or just even going to the park where they have opportunities to potentially interact with other kids. Maybe even like labeling their emotions, like you seem like you're happy right now, you're sad, or even labeling your own emotions are all good ways to help to encourage and support social interaction for your child at this age.
Okay, so from birth to age 3, it's a big developmental stage for your children, and sometimes you might notice that your child really isn't progressing the way that their siblings have, or any other child that you know has. So if you suspect that your child has some developmental delays, there are a few things that you can do to help prepare. So you can always contact your regional office or your regional center, such as Inland Regional Center. That is the center for the Inland Empire. They serve families of children with developmental delays or disabilities. Okay, you can talk to your pediatrician and share your observations. That's going to be one of the things that your pediatrician is going to want to have, is just your observations about your concerns and what you're really seeing. Ask about developmental screenings, if that's an option at your pediatrician's office. Some potential services include early intervention programs, speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, some even family support services if your family really needs that support in terms of helping your child with possible developmental delays. We also have our Riverside County Office of Education. Their Infant Circle program provides family-centered resources for children under 3, right? So these children, if you really just kind of want that information, reach out to these resources. Things that you can do, these kind of readiness things that you could do to help prepare, would be to document your observations of these possible developmental delays. and then share them with your pediatrician. Document observations is very, very important because some things that you might not think would be the most important, some of those things actually connect, right? So you want to document your observations so you are just ready to present and have that conversation with your pediatrician. You can also collaborate with early intervention providers to establish individualized family service plans. So that's kind of the thing that happens before they get into public school. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay. So age 3 to transitions to school districts. So during this time, your child, if they qualified and required regional center, qualified for regional center services, this is the time when they would be transitioning as they're approaching their 3rd birthday, transitioning to the school system. So regional center kind of more focuses on the family-centered focus. And the school district, when you transition to the school district, the focus shifts at that point to focusing on your child's educational needs. And so that's kind of this big shift at this point. So the transitions of if your child is going to transition to school and you think that they may need services at school, that's when the district would reach out to you to conduct an evaluation to determine eligibility for school-based special education services. And at that point, if your student was recommended to qualify, we would develop an individualized education program or plan, an IEP if your student is recommended to qualify for services. So we offer preschool special education programs. These vary depending on what your child needs are, but other services that your child can get in the school district also include kind of what Miss Rhonda said was like speech therapy, behavioral therapy, things like that. Again, it's all tailored and directed towards your child's specific needs. To prepare for this, for you as a parent, are try to increase those hours. The hours will be increasing at this time from early intervention hours to hours in the school district in a preschool program potentially. So those are things that, you might want to prepare with working your child, having them do more structured activities for longer periods of time. Practice readiness skills such as toilet training, self-feeding, and communication. If your child is going to be going to a school-based program for preschool, you might want to consider taking them to that school in advance, having them see the school, see what it looks like, maybe meet some of the staff that they might be working with, things that you can do to prepare your child for when they're going to be going into that new program. Yes.
Mr. Cisneros.
Thank you. I do have a question. As you were sharing this, Kathleen and Rhonda, one of the places that my mind went was working with parents of young students, TK, kindergarten, and they were concerned that their child might have speech delay or some sort of impediment. But the conversation sometimes was around, it's maybe developmentally appropriate for them to not have all of the sounds right now. What is and not just for speech, but what is the kind of the line or when families should seek out like the Inland Regional Center or the school side for any additional support or evaluation? What do you recommend to families who are having that sort of concern? And then just our Spanish interpreter has requested that we kind of slow down the way we're speaking so that she can listen, process, and then interpret. So thank you.
So that's a wonderful question because you're right. All students, all children develop not exactly the same. So when do you kind of know that this might be a concern, or if they're just need a little bit more time to develop? Kathleen, what do you think, Annie?
Yeah, so those are things. So before the age of 3, when those concerns are happening, and you have some concerns, those are things that, like we said earlier, if you are worried that your child is not developing at the appropriate rate, those are things that you do want to consult with your pediatrician when you go to the doctor. Let them know that, like we said, document your observations. Make sure you're marking those milestones. When is your child starting to walk? When are they starting to talk? When are they starting to crawl, roll over? All those main developmental milestones, and they're easy to look up just online. What are the developmental milestones? What are the age ranges when you expect to see? They do vary. The ranges of when children meet milestones. There's a window. It's not always like early. It's not always late. It varies for each child. But those are things, if you're seeing your child is developing much more slowly, you think, than what is within the average range, consult with your pediatrician on those things. Before the age of 3 is when you want to reach out to regional center. If your child is getting closer to that age 3, as they're approaching their 3rd birthday, maybe like 90 days before, around that time, if that's when you're kind of seeing the concerns happen, that's when you're going to be reaching out to the school district, because that's about the time when we start doing our preschool evaluations at that point. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think just kind of building on that, really, you can always ask the question if you're concerned, because you're going to know your child better than I think any of us would know your child. So if you really do have that concern, you can always ask the question, speak to your pediatrician, say, I'm having some concerns. I mean, I know he might, kids might be a little behind, but this really concerns me, and just have the conversation. Okay. So we're kind of moving into the actual school district, pre-K to TK to kindergarten. So this is a bigger transition for your student. When we're looking at this stage, really, it marks a shift from kind of that half-day preschool to actually full-day school settings. Okay, and there are a couple things that you can do to help your student make this transition. Again, it's a pretty big transition. They're having more expectations put on them. They're having to, be more social with students who are in the classroom, and it's there's just kind of a lot of things that they'll be experiencing. So some of the ways in which you can help them with this transition, always foster independence in their self-help skills. Okay, you want to encourage that toileting independence, right? You can practice using the restroom with minimal assistance, because that's going to be one of the expectations of going into, TK and kindergarten, is the toileting piece, right? So you're helping them foster that independence with that self-help. Teach hand washing, dressing, putting on shoes independently, right? These are the times and stages where our little babies are not our little babies anymore. So you really want to help them be more independent, and it's really going to go a long way to help with them transitioning into the school setting. Okay, you can also help them practice opening their lunch containers, managing their backpack, right? Those little things that we kind of don't really think about. You can help them just foster that self-help. Building communication skills. This is going to be another really helpful thing for their transition, and this is all about helping them transition into the school setting. Teach them simple phrases to express what they need, right? I need help. I'm thirsty. Okay. When students come into the school setting, teacher, teacher is going to be wonderful with their child, but at the same time, they can't really notice those nonverbal cues that you might notice in your child as well. So having them build their communication and actually speaking what they need is going to help with that transition. You can read books together and ask simple questions. This, again, is helping them build on their comprehension of what they're reading. This helps them communicate the things that they're reading or that they need. And always encourage your child to engage in conversations with adults and with their peers, right? You want them to have a good range of a communication with other people, adults in their lives, or peers, cousins, maybe siblings. Have them communicate with different types of people. Another big one, especially when we're talking about TK and kindergarten, you're going from that pre-K to, really the kinder, the TK and kinder, is going to be to establish routines, right? Morning routines and school routines. Okay. This is going to go a long way in their transition because it's going to help set them up for kind of the rest of their educational journey. Okay. Set consistent bedtimes. Kids these days, they need a lot of sleep. Okay, their brains are doing a lot of work, and they need rest and sleep to be able to go on and continue, right? So not only a bedtime routine, but also a wake up routine. Okay, they need to have that routine of actually getting up, preparing for their day, getting dressed, that kind of thing. You also want to practice with them getting dressed, eating their breakfast, packing their backpack before school starts, right? You really just want to make sure that those routines are going to carry on, right? You want to be consistent in a routine. You can also introduce a structured schedule to mimic what they would kind of see during kindergarten, right? This is all very much preparing them for this step. These are the things that are going to help ease that transition for these students.
Okay, so continuing on with this transition, other things that you can do to help support your child during this time are supporting their social emotional readiness. So again, arranging play dates is always a great thing to do. It just helps to increase opportunities for your child to be able to socialize with other kids. They're younger than them, older than them, different ages. Again, when they interact with their peers this age, they're able to practice doing things like sharing, which is something they're going to have to do in school, taking turns. So having those play dates really helps them to be able to prepare, to be able to use those skills once they go to TK and kindergarten. Teach strategies for managing emotions. These things can be like deep breathing. So sometimes maybe one day that you get really upset, you can model this for your child, like, oh, I'm really mad right now. And then you engage in deep breathing yourself, like taking a deep breath and then release a long breath out. And then just keep doing that as you're modeling that skill for your child. Then when they do it, you can tell them like, hey, let's take deep breaths. And then you guys can do it together when they're upset. Help them to remember or try to encourage them to ask for help. Sometimes our kids will come up and they'll just like grab our arm or grab our sleeves and or just cry about something because they're upset. When they're upset, instead of just resolving the issue for them, it's good for us to say, do you need help? And you could, if you want to learn a few even signs, because depending on where your child is, you could even like learn some sign language, some basic sign language of like, you could pair it with a gesture. Do you need help? And so encourage them to actually vocalize or use gestures or verbally communicate what they're having an issue with. Encourage following simple directions and engaging in group activities. Also, so for building academic readiness, some other things that you guys can do is, of course, we want to start encouraging letter recognition at this time, numbers, shapes, and colors. So some ways you can do that with your child is when you're at the grocery store, you can just count any items, like you're going to put 5 cans. So I need 5 cans, 1, 2, 3, count the cans, count how many apples today, this week. We need 5 apples, and then count them out loud and kind of do that with your child and have them try to count with you. Maybe playing I Spy with your child. I spy something red, and then you could look for something, tell them to find something red in the room, or things like that. Or so yeah, that's a good game too. Also, so you could support with early writing skills by encouraging your child to draw lines, tracing, holding a pencil. It's good to have your child try to hold different size writing utensils, like holding a pencil, holding a maybe something larger like a large crayon, or holding different grasping sizes, or even having your child play with Play-Doh, where they're using their hands and increasing their hand motor coordination to squeeze objects. Also, reading daily to your child always encourages vocabulary, increases language skills, and early literacy skills. So that is always something to do with your children. Encourage reading, read together. Have them maybe open the book and see if they can tell you back something that they remembered from the story, or even if they can tell you the story and they'll just make it up. So different things that you can try to support that skill. For utilizing community and school resources, sometimes there are offerings for kindergarten readiness workshops offered at local parenting training centers. We definitely encourage you to take part in any of these that you know about that are being offered. Again, like we said before, visiting school before the first day of school, especially if you're expecting your child to have a hard time with this transition, it might be good to just take them there one day, a few days before, even say, this is your school. This is where you're going to go in the front. This is where the playground is, and just drive around and get them familiar with that setting. Since especially if you're expecting that they're going to have a hard time with that transition. Communicate to teachers about any developmental concerns that you might have. So again, if you do have any concerns about your child or how they're going to do with the transition to school, make sure that you're communicating with the teachers, letting them know what you see them doing at home and what you're worried about them being able to do at school. So just that everyone could be on the same page and we could all try to support together to help with this transition. And then elementary to middle school. So this is a big transition, elementary to middle school. So some changes you can expect at this time from going from elementary to middle school are there's going to be definitely more academic and social expectations for children. Usually there's a higher workload and organizational demand because of the fact your child's going to be going from being in one classroom all day to being in middle school, where they're going to be switching. They'll have 6 different classes. They may not have to switch different teachers at all those periods, but they'll have 6 different classes that they're going to be switching between. So that's definitely just a higher demand altogether for our children. Students will be attending PE. They will have lockers. They'll have to dress out. So this is always a big topic of conversation, of kids having to dress out in front of each other for the first time. Sometimes that's a little bit hard. Knowing how to use a PE locker. So if those are something that you can practice at home, get that lock before they go to middle school, have them practice to use it, make sure that they understand how to use it. And, again, have them practice before they go there. Know how your child's going to be getting to school. As far as transportation goes, are they going to be walking to school? Is someone going to be dropping off? Is there a plan in place for that? Just to make sure that your child's getting there every day on time. Peer relationships during this time usually become much more complex. There's shifting friendship groups sometimes. Sometimes the kids are all coming from different elementary schools. They may or may not have classes with some of their friends that they had before in elementary school. So that's where that's why it's another reason it's a hard transition, because maybe all their kids that they had from kindergarten through 5th grade, now they're going to be in different classes mixed in with so many different peers from different elementary schools. So social groups definitely are shifting, are kind of forming at this time. Your child might have increased sensitivity to peer approval at this time. As we know, just as we shift into puberty, like this is the time when fitting in with friends is really very important to kids this age. Your child may become more private, maybe less communicative with you, and they might experience they might not want to talk to you every day about what's going on at school, or really tell you all the things that are going on with their friends, like they were maybe in elementary school. They might have some mood swings and some emotional changes during this time, again, just due to puberty and all the social pressures that they're dealing with. So this is definitely a really big transition for our kids. Then again, so parent readiness tips, some things that you can do to support your child during this time with this big shift from elementary to middle school could be encouraging your child, again, with those higher demands academically, shifting between classes. You really want to encourage them to stay organized, have tools or strategies or routines in place for them to keep track of their homework and what's due in every single class that they have. You do want to, I know that your child at this time might not be as communicative as they were before, or they may be. But you do want to check in with your child, try to have conversations with them, ask them how they're doing, ask them how they're doing with completing their homework, ask them how they're doing with making friends and adjusting to middle school. And even if they don't want to talk to you about it at this time, it's just important to ask at least. It shows that you care for your child and that maybe they don't want to open up to you at this time, but maybe they will open up to you later. Help your child have a routine at home for completing homework. So I think this is a big thing too, is just having a plan in place. Maybe your child does some after school activities, or maybe you're not even home until 5 or 6 o'clock at night, or whatever time parents are home. Make sure that there's a plan in place for them, like when they get home, maybe they're going to have a snack first and then they're going to do their homework. Or are they going to do it? Are they going to wait to do it when you're home so that you could be there to supervise and help them? Just make a plan, and having a schedule and a routine really helps to make sure that they're successful with getting everything done that they need to. In middle school, it's really, I think it's a really great time, especially for parents to get access to Aries, if you didn't already have it. But this is a good way for you to like look at your kids' grades, check on their grades, see how they're doing with turning in all of their assignments, monitoring their progress in their classes. And then this could also help open that conversation that you're having with your child about talking to their teachers about the assignments that they're missing, or why didn't they turn this in, or why did they get this score on this quiz. This is the time that we want to encourage them to start taking ownership of their academics and really being advocates for themselves and talking to the teachers themselves. Encourage open communication with your child about any challenges or successes they might have. Learn about the school's cell phone policy. I think this is a big thing. Definitely, we are seeing more and more kids being distracted by their cell phones. All of our schools may have, I'll check with your school to find out what the cell phone policy is, but just know too that it's important for us as adults to help our children create healthy boundaries around using their phones, especially using them at school. Because sometimes this can be a really big distraction for our kids, where it really sometimes starts to impact them and how they're doing at school academically as well. From middle to high school transition. So during this time, again, this is another big transition, kids moving from middle school to high school. The focus area for kids at this time is an emphasis on independence and self-advocacy. So our kids really want to be as independent as possible. They kind of want to break away from being so connected to their parents at this time. There's an introduction to vocational and career planning. So it's kind of like that. What's my plan when I get into 9th grade? Am I going to be working towards getting that? You start thinking about what's beyond high school and what am I going to do after this? So there's that shift at this time. So what can you expect from your child at this age? They do show that increased desire for independence typically. They definitely they're self-identifying and exploring their own personal identities. They may challenge authority or push boundaries a little bit more frequently at this time. Again, probably an even greater shift or focus towards friendships, peer groups, and social groups over family time. There may be more stress due to higher academic demands, especially considering what classes your student is taking. And then again, the pressures of future planning. What am I going to do after high school? Am I going to get a job? Am I going to go to college? Am I going to go to a career technical education school? So kind of, just that stress of knowing I have 4 years until my next step for being independently on my own. May experience shifts in motivation. So some kids become highly focused at this time and they're motivated and they really know what they want to do and they focus in on that, while others struggle and they procrastinate. So just, monitor your child, watch your child, see what kind of how they're adjusting to this change at this time, and just support them with that. There may be high emotional highs and also emotional lows due to hormonal changes and social challenges. So again, this is definitely another difficult time that we want to support our children transition from middle school to high school. And then, so parent readiness. Sorry,
Kathleen, if we want to go ahead and pause.
Yeah.
Sure, Cisneros.
Yeah, sorry. If we go back to the slide before,
Okay.
you mentioned something, Ms. Lopez, and it really kind of brought me back to a lot of conversations I've had with multiple parents throughout the years on that what to expect section, the second and the third bullet point. They may challenge authority or push boundaries more frequently. I am a parent to a now 19-year-old, and you really put me back into what she was like as a 14-year-old, and that was rough. And then greater focus on friendships and social groups over family time. What advice would you have for parents of students who really are challenging that authority by refusing to listen, not wanting to abide by what the parent is saying on that second point? And on the third point, I've heard a lot of parents tell me, like, Alejandro, they're kind of running in with the wrong crowd. They're focused on friendships that the parent might not fully approve of. How do we lovingly still enforce those boundaries for our students while letting them develop into their own person? I know it's a hard balance, but what advice would you have for our parents here?
So, as you said, it's a delicate balance because, again, you are working with your child. The ultimate goal is for them to be independent, to be able to advocate for themselves, because as they get older, they are going to have to transition into that type of role for themselves. And I think, again, being able to teach how to boundary set and how to do it in a healthy way is important as well. Kids these age, when they're doing these transitions, there's a lot more to consider, I think, than just changing schools. They have a lot of things going on. They have, hormones are going on, social media, the things that they see on the internet, their phone. Again, it's typical of this age group to see these types of things. And I don't think that it is telling of your parenting style, right? We're at the end of the day, we're all just trying to get through it. But I don't want this type of behavior to really get you down. I think I would have to say that, but just open communication, right? That's going to be the biggest help, is that you communicate, and then you're being transparent when you communicate. And don't be afraid to go back kind of towards that beginning transition and say, you are making me feel this way. I see that you're doing this and that's how it's making me feel. Or I see you I see you doing this and I don't think that it's a very good choice. At the end of the day, a lot of it is communicating with your student, having those healthy boundary talks kind of before you get to this point, because you're going to see some of these things, and it's not part of, it's not anything negative on your parenting issue. It's just transitions. They're going
And I
from
also, to kind of add to that, and I think Rondi made a good point about the open communication. I think the frequent check-ins with our students, especially when they hit middle school, and really checking in with them, asking them, how was your day, when they're upset, or you see a change in their mood, really trying to elicit a response. It seems that you're down, or it seems that you're angry, having those conversations with them. Also, reach out to your school site. We have school counselors. We have a lot of resources at the school sites. They can really kind of walk you through some of these. Most of us are parents, and it's challenging, especially when they reach that kind of puberty, teenage stage. And so, but I think the key definitely is that regular check-ins, and then reach out to your school sites too, because we do have resources to help parents kind of navigate this. Sometimes it's an awkward period for students too, for our teenagers. So.
And then I also want to just uplift a comment in the chat. Thank you, Director Sebastian, for that. Blanca in the chat said, and I'll translate, I think that when they get to that point, we, the parents, need to be very firm and not let them do whatever it is that they want. They need to be clear and know that we're here to support them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I love that. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to be their safe harbor. So continuing to communicate and not just, kind of giving up because they don't want to talk, just make it so that you're available to communicate, that you're here, you're doing those check-ins, you're still caring about what's happening to them, because, even though they're going through these transitions, I think our students and your children really do appreciate knowing that you're still there. Even when all of this other stuff is not going to be there anymore, you are still going to be there.
Definitely. Okay, so again, with so parent readiness tips and things you can do to support your child at this time is allowing your teen to make decisions, but set clear expectations. So some of those things we talked about, like someone mentioned, being firm. This is what I want for you. This is my expectation of you. I expect you to get this done, and so that they're really clear in what you expect them to do. Help them to create a schedule for homework. At this time, especially in high school, they might be in clubs, they might be in school sports, they might they may even, if they're maybe juniors or seniors, maybe they have a job as well. Maybe they're engaged in extracurricular activities just outside of school. Really make sure that you're helping them to create a schedule for when they are completing their homework, when they are dedicating to doing things related to school, and having time for that set aside. Help them to teach time management skills. So such as using a planner or maybe phone reminders, again, just helping with having a plan for how am I going to get this done, and trying to help them to create that plan. Because again, they're in high school, they have 6 different classes. They have a lot of obligations at this time that they need to do, obligations socially, obligations for school. And we just want to make sure that they are working on balancing all of those things. Regularly check the school parent portal for grades and assignments. So again, like I said earlier, our district uses Aries, and there's a way for parents to get access to that, to log in and look at their students' grades. If you have access to that, again, you could help your child to stay on track. We want to build independence, but you do want to encourage them to talk and advocate for themselves with their teachers, but you could also check in and monitor them during this time. Encourage strong study habits and a dedicated study space at home. I think this is really important too. Sometimes it's hard depending on your living situation to find a space, but just do the best you can to find a good space for that student to be able to do their homework and study in a place that has less distractions, if possible. Help them break down large assignments into manageable tasks. So sometimes those big science projects or those larger writing assignments that are going to be due in their classes, sometimes those can be overwhelming for our kids. So if you can tell them, like, okay, well, what are you going to do first? Like, how about this week you work on this? Or how about on Monday you do this part of it? Like, help them to break it down. Then on Tuesday, like, don't do it all the night before it's due, which I know some kids end up doing. But if you're saying like, hey, I know that I saw this on there that you're going to have this large assignment due in a few weeks. So what are you going to do? What's your plan? Are you going to do some of it this week, some of it this weekend? Just help them to break that down into smaller chunks so that they can be successful when it's time to complete it and turn it in on time. If you can, attend any school events that your child's engaged in, whether that's school sports or any other event, parent-teacher conferences or any IEP meetings for your child. Make sure that you're attending those. Being involved, again, like we said before, in school for your child is really important for them to be successful. Work with your IEP team to develop transition goals and update accommodations. Explore elective classes or extracurricular activities that align with your child's interests. So our high schools have a lot of different elective options. Make sure you're talking with your school counselor about what those options are at your school, and then making sure that you're trying to set a goal or set their student on the path to help them for after high school too. Understand graduation requirements. The graduation requirements are one thing, but then there's also helping your child if they would like to go down that path of being A through G ready, which would be if your child wants to go directly to a 4-year. Not everyone does, but just making sure that you understand what those options are. And then also the option of certificate of completion for some of our students is there too. Some resources here, we have our California Career Zone. This is a website that students can go on and they can explore. Usually our school counselors are doing this or working some of these things with our child, or maybe some of your child's teachers are also doing this with your children, with kids in school. But it's a website that anyone can go on to help your child to identify their interests and align it with potential career options after high school. High schools often provide workability or vocational programs for students with IEPs. So just know that those programs are out there. And if you have questions about those, you could always reach out to your child's case carrier about what those are.
Okay, so we have done all of this work. We have successfully, transitioned your kid from, pre-K to TK and K, to elementary to middle school, to middle to high school. So what comes after high school? What is that going to look like for your child when they do attend? So your students on IEPs, we have to kind of go into this process, right? We have to look at that post-school, post-secondary transition. What are they going to do when they graduate, right? And so what we do is what we call transition planning. Okay, so at age 16, transition planning becomes a required part of your child's IEP, right? So not only are we working on academic goals, social emotional goals, communication goals, whatever those areas of need are for your students, we also are going to work with your students within your child's IEP on what their life after high school is going to be like, right? And help them prepare for that transition. Because I think, looking at all of these transitions, that's probably one of the biggest transitions. It's just transitioning out of public school, right? And they can take so many different paths. So that is going to be a part of your IEP team's goal, is to make sure that your child is prepared for that, right? That's the ultimate goal. Prepare them for life after high school. And it could look like many different things. That's really going to be when the team, with your input, builds this transition plan to make that a possibility for our students. Okay. And so why is this important? Why do we kind of put a lot of importance on this transition planning, right? It's not just about figuring out what they would like to do. Okay, a lot of it is identifying their strengths, what their interests are, what goals they have for the future, right? Sometimes when students kind of look into, life after high school, it can be very overwhelming, because they could have friends that are going to a college, they're going to a trade school, they're going to go work at their family's shop, they have different plans. And it could be very, very overwhelming. So helping with this type of transition is just, how can we prepare them for that, right? Building on those strengths, building on those interests, and turning those into goals. It also ensures that they receive the right support and accommodations to succeed. Okay, so when we look at transition planning and we look at transitioning your student out of high school, we are identifying the supports that they are going to need and utilize outside of high school as well. Okay. It also encourages independence and self-advocacy, right? Because once they begin their high school journey, a lot of that ownership is going to be transferred to them, right? You want to try and have them become independent because they're getting bigger and they're growing up, and pretty soon they're going to be adults. So we want them to be able to build on those independent skills and to build upon being able to advocate for themselves, right? So that's pretty much our transition planning. That is why it is so important to work with your students' IEP team with this. Next. So what are some ways you can support this transition, right? You can discuss your child's goals and interests early, right? It's never too early to talk about what you're going to do after high school, right? Even middle school, you can have those conversations so you can really look at the goals that your child has after high school, and then say, hey, okay, so you want to do this, let's make a plan for this. So when you're going into that transition, you've done a lot of the work, right? Have those regular conversations about their strengths, about their aspirations, right? Encourage career exploration. It could be through job shadowing. It could be for volunteering, right? If you go to church, any volunteering with your church, that would be perfectly fine. Any activity that they can explore things that they could do after high school, it's always encouraged, right? We also want to encourage decision-making and problem-solving skills at home, because these are going to be some of the things they're really going to need, especially after high school, in terms of just encouraging how you can allow your child to make small daily choices, right? Again, a lot of it is going to be about fostering independence, having them have the opportunity to be independent, right? Letting go a lot of the control and saying, okay, you're going to do this on your own, right? So have them make those small daily choices. It doesn't have to be a lot, right? It could be managing their schedule. It could be managing a small budget, right? You want to teach problem solving by discussing real life challenges and brainstorming solutions together. Okay, that is how a lot of students learn. They learn through experience, right? They have to experience some of these things in order to get the core lesson out of what just happened, right? So looking at problem solving, give them something they have seen before, give them something that they can work through in their lives, and encourage and be motivating through that. You can also help them explore career paths and educational opportunities based on those interests. It could be a simple conversation over dinner. You love rock collecting. I mean, what are the types of jobs that rock collectors can do? And just have that conversation. And a lot of the goal is to get those students thinking, get your children thinking about it, right? And building upon their strengths and their interests. And then provide opportunities for them to practice self-advocacy in different environments. This is going to be very important, right? So they have to be able to go into different environments and understand how to advocate for themselves within that environment. Okay, it's not just school, right? It's going to be at their job. How would they advocate for themselves in a job if they have a part-time job? Social settings, at the grocery store, again, if you go to church, those types of things. Just have them experience practicing skills in different environments so they can kind of get a feel for how they would self-advocate in those places. Okay. Thanks. Okay. So this is we're going to explore post-secondary options. There's a lot of different options out there for your children, for your students. College and vocational training. This is kind of more the traditional route that some students go. Colleges and universities, all colleges and universities offer disability support services for accommodations. State universities, community colleges, I should have that. You could have something different for private universities. It just depends on where you go. Okay. But generally, you should be able to get disability support services within a college or university setting. Okay. Community colleges are great. We have one right downtown RCC. They provide affordable pathways, and they also do that by way of job training programs. They have certificate programs, they have diploma programs. So whatever your child's need, right, that's about having that transition discussion. Oh, I don't want to do another 4 years of school. It's not interesting. I want to go ahead and just start my career off. Having those conversations is really going to help form how they're going to explore their options for after high school. Okay. Also with trade schools, some students, they're just hands-on. You know, they just want a hands-on career. They want to get out there and they just want to use their skills. Okay. Not a bad thing at all. Again, having those conversations and knowing the direction in which your student kind of wants to go to is going to help a lot with just planning that transition afterwards. Okay. Some students would just rather go and get a job and work right off the bat. There are opportunities, there are options if that is the case. One good option for students with IEPs is going to be the Department of Rehabilitation. Okay, so that helps with job training, internships, and job placement. Okay, and that is a county program. There's also supported employment, job coaching, accommodations for students who need extra assistance, right? We have those mechanisms in place. Again, once you have the communication, once you're speaking to your children and your students and you're getting a feel, communicate with the IEP team, okay? Because really, it's going to be every one of us that are going to be building this plan for the best possible outcome for your students. Thanks. Okay. So how could you do this? How can you prepare? What action plan are we looking at when we're trying to make sure that they become more independent, right? For self-advocacy, that's, I think, one of the biggest ones. It's going to be being able for them to speak up for themselves, for them to tell whoever they need to tell what they need, right? You want to encourage your child to speak up about their needs, to request those accommodations. You know, if they need something extra, they need to learn that they have to just say it. They have to speak up, right? Because sometimes students don't have very well developed self-advocacy skills and they tend to fall behind a little bit, right? So always encourage to ask and speak up about what they need, no matter the environment, no matter where they are, job, school, trade school, volunteering, whatever that they need at that time. You can do this by help them practice communication with teachers, counselors, employers, right? Your student is going to meet a lot of different people who have a lot of different roles within their lives. Okay, and being able to help them practice that self-advocacy, speaking to those other people, is going to really help with their transition, because they're going to go off to a job, they're going to go off to college, wherever they do end up, they're going to need to know how to express themselves and speak up about what they need to those stakeholders. So how can we prepare them for college or the workforce? Okay. There are many different ways that you can help support your student through this. You can visit college campuses. Sometimes high schools do have those college visits, right? They have those opportunities where your student can go with their peers and go look at a college. You can also explore the disability support services. You can look and see what they have, what they offer before you even get there. Okay. Practice filling out applications, resumes, and interviews. Okay, these are some of the skills that you wouldn't really think that they would need practice with in high school, but the more that you prepare these students, prepare your students and your children by doing these things, the easier it's going to be. They really are going to thank you for helping them through this and understanding how to fill out applications, how to do a resume, and how to speak within interviews. Okay. And then time management, organization, and responsibility. These things are not going to stop after high school, right? It's really good that they're organized. They have a homework schedule. They taking responsibility. Like, I'm putting my phone away. It's not going to these skills are not going to stop when high school stops. Okay, they're always going to need to manage their time. They're always going to need to be organized to an extent. They're always going to need to have some type of self-responsibility. And in order to prepare them for that transition, we really do have to practice before we get there. Okay.
Absolutely. Looking at the time, we're already at 6 o'clock. I wanted to first of all just say thank you. This was a really information-filled presentation. Thank you for it. And then I just want to give our family members just one last opportunity. Does anybody in the audience have a question that they would like to ask? You can feel free to unmute your mic and ask it now.
Yes, please unmute, put it in the chat box. We're here to answer.
Halima, do you have a question? Okay, well, then,
Oh,
hi,
I do.
go ahead.
I saw that you guys are now adding the CNA program into the high school, the CNA program, and I saw some other vocational. That's still not enough, and your curriculum and the high school and the whole curriculum in the whole USA is not enough. What students are learning at community colleges is something that can be taught in high school. And by the time they get out of high school, they should already be practicing as nurses. It's
Yeah,
it's
so
simple,
I mean, it would always
basic.
be, yeah, it would always be lovely and nice if we had those type of pathways, kind of embedded within our curriculums, embedded within our schools. We do have
All I
some
want
of
is
those options at different campuses, but very valid question. Yeah, having them being able to experience both of that. And again, you have to balance as well because there's a lot of academic demand for for your students within the high school as well.
If I can maybe just speak to that, thank you for the question, Halima. The CNA program that we've just announced, that's actually at adult school. That's for our adult community members who are looking to expand their job skills. That's totally free of charge. But for our students, we do have a health pathways. Specifically, we have one at La Sierra High School. Yeah, all of the high schools have a career and technical education pathway. But if you're asking about that specific CNA course, that's actually for adults 18 and over. Doesn't have to live in Albert, doesn't have to be connected with Albert. Anybody is welcome to apply for that. But for our students, we do have health pathways where they have a direct line into Kaiser. We have Kaiser health practitioners come in.
Alejandro, may I stop you? I
Yeah,
went to Norte Vista High School myself,
yeah.
and I did not know any English when I came. I had to learn English. Then after 2 years, I already could handle the language. Then I wanted to, because I was already bored, I said, what's next? And I'm enrolled in French. I said, oh, oh, I should have started with French and English. Uh, I just, I went to high school here. I went to community college here. When I went to community college, I said, why did they waste my time in high school? And what I'm learning here at a community college, I should have learned it in high school. I attempted to enroll into the CNA program when I was in high school, and because when I was in 18 or 17, they didn't allow me because I was supposed to be in the ranges only to do what? For what? what, were, what were you trying to? So after high school, I finished and I completed, and then I enrolled at RC. I wanted to study journalism. Then I was a child, so I said, let me enroll in something real quick, something that would allow me to work while I figure out what I'm going to do next. Because I have this goal. I know I'm supposed to do something greater than big. So I didn't appreciate that they put that barrier besides the other barriers I was already going through, and you alienating me as an ESL student, alienating me as an ESL student. And then like, well, you already get the point. They didn't allow me to enter into Cinnabon because I wasn't 17 and I was handling needles. They said I could, but no, I wanted to enroll into there's two programs. There was another program that I wanted to enroll, and they said no because I wasn't 17. They said, oh, you can enroll into the CM program. And went to the RP program.
Yeah, what I'm going to do, Halima, is I'm going to give you my direct cell phone number. I've just put it into the chat. If you'd like to have a conversation about, the different programs that we offer.
The point I wanted to make across is that what is being taught in community college can be taught in high schools. So you are wasting our children's times all over the world. Thank you.
What is being what? I'm sorry. What's being offered at community college?
At least in the USA Corporation, the way the system is made to teach children is wasting our children's intellectual time. They should be doing greater good for the galaxy.
Well, may I left my cell phone number in there if you'd like to have a conversation offline, but just for the looking at our time is all up. So thank you again, Rhonda, Kathleen, Michelle, the entire special education team for being here. Thank you to Naima. Thank you to Patti, our interpreters. And then that's also an invitation for any of our parents who are here joining us. If you'd like to know what all of the different programs are that we offer in Alvord Unified School District, we do have fantastic pathways where students do graduate from our high schools with college credits. We do have advanced placement college courses, dual enrollment courses. We have international baccalaureate over at Norte Vista. As I mentioned earlier, we have CTE pathways where students come out of our high schools with the trade. We have plumbers that come out of our schools. We have carpenters. We have computer engineers, and those are just our 18-year-olds getting ready to then go on and then do amazing things. So just wanted to make sure that we ended off on that note and a note of gratitude and thank you to our special education team and our interpreters. Thank you so much. If anybody has any additional questions, my phone number is